Welcome to video number 14 in the professional development series focused on teaching and learning online, specifically student-to-student engagement online. This video is focused on applying our model and principles to a science topic of Earth and space, seasons in Year 7. We know from our principles for student-to-student online engagement that we look at collaborative inquiry to build student self-regulation through cognitive, emotional and behavioural engagement. And we understand there are 4 principles that guide our pedagogy to enable this: sustained communication, modelling, management and learning design. So let's apply these ideas to the seasons unit for Year 7. The science unit comprises about 10 lessons, and in this example we'll focus on about 4 lessons, where there is a comparison of Western and indigenous seasons. This example is in line with the Australian curriculum, and at the end there would be an assessment that focuses on the use of T-tables and bubble maps. Here are the aims. Now here's an overview of the unit. The Western and Indigenous seasons lessons start with that background knowledge and conceptual development. The students can find a PowerPoint presentation in the OneNote space that gives them some of this background information. And in this phase of content facilitated by the teacher, the students also would receive explicit instructions for how to create a calendar and how to analyse a calendar. The students then work in groups on Indigenous seasons. They use a common shared PowerPoint and a OneNote space, and they look into developing bubble maps to collaboratively work together. A key task through group and paired work is to create a calendar for the local area, and at the end the students present their work to the whole class. As it was stated, the teacher builds that introduction, that content knowledge, and works with the students on the topic of Western and Indigenous seasons through knowledge building content materials and activities. One important part of this phase is also building understanding, as we said, about calendars and how they are all analysed and constructed, and also the skill of using T-charts, tables and bubble maps. Each group in our first group work activity is assigned a starting home calendar, which they work on for about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, there's a signal like a bell or a timer goes off, and the groups switch to the new calendar, and this repeats every 5 minutes. In the second rotation, the students read what the original students have contributed to about that calendar and add their own new ideas. This is repeated until students go back to their original calendar. Asynchronously, this could occur over a period of a week, for example. When the students are back at the original calendar, that group finishes the T-table report and they all discuss the outcomes in a shared OneNote space. It's like a workstation learning, which is a technique that has been used in science to engage students in learning. Multiple related activities are run simultaneously. After finishing the T-table, the teacher explains the concept of the bubble mind map. Therefore, the class might meet, for example, on a synchronous platform, such as Teams, Zoom, Skype. The model of the bubble map takes place in different steps. Step number 1, the teacher explains to a student while the rest of the class is watching. In step 2, the student explains to the teacher with the rest of the class watching. Maybe some feedback is given by the peers and the other students and the teacher. And in step number 3, a student explains it to another student while the rest of the class is watching, maybe with some feedback from the teacher and peers. After this stepwise modelling, students go back to groups and make a bubble map for their calendar. After they create their bubble map for their group, new pairs are formed which have analysed different calendars. They present the bubble map to each other and create a new double bubble map. This could be completed on Teams, as Teams is connected with OneNote. Afterwards, it is planned that the students continue to work on their own and produce a calendar of their own hometown. This would be particularly interesting if the students were spread out over the whole of Australia or Queensland, and this new designed calendar will be presented and discussed in class. There are two principles I'd like to point out. Firstly, let's focus on modelling. Modelling on the what, the seasons, and the creation of the calendar, the scientific calendar, is evident in the learning design. But also, I just wanted to point out the how, the focus on the learning process and what that means in these online spaces. For example, when the students were doing the tea tables and they were rotating around and having that opportunity to be working in that way. Another example is in the bubble map, the real-time activity, where the sequence was teacher to student, student to teacher, and then student to student. And the processes that would have been explicitly developed in that, like paraphrasing, presenting ideas, what collaboration looks like, these were demonstrated. The other idea here is thinking about the second principle, sustained communication. The teacher was more present or focused on the content knowledge at the beginning of the learning sequence through real time and, of course, asynchronous resources such as teacher videos and digital content. But as the activities moved into that, scientific learning, the application of these ideas, the content was orientated to group work rotations and the development of that double bubble map, where the teacher shifted from that instructor to the co-learner and co-contributor. Thank you.